I want you to show me how to get to know someone like you, someone like you. I want you to know me, 'cause I know then you'll see we could be true, we could be.
Hey everybody, I'm Amber Ryan and welcome to my channel. Today is finally going to be my May reading wrap-up. This video is long overdue, I know. It has been absolute chaos here lately, it seems. So, finally getting around to finishing this video. And I did it the way I usually do it here lately as I've started doing these reading wrap-up videos. What I do is I'll read the book, and then once I finish reading a book, I will come and basically talk about how I'm feeling about the book, what I rate it, and whether I liked it or not, and kind of say a little bit about each book. And so that's kind of been my way of filming these reading wrap-ups, just so you guys can kind of get, like, in the moment, my emotions, like, in the moment of each of the books and how I feel towards them, and basically trying to keep it honest. Basically an honest review of each of the books. Now, unfortunately, this month, or May, I should say, because it's already like there's 2 weeks left of June at this point. So, in May, unfortunately, time really got away from me, and the first half of the month went great. I flew through my TBR in the first half of the month, and then I forget what happened, but halfway through the month, I guess I hit either a reading slump or there's just too much going on because it was a pretty chaotic month, just like June has been, and so I didn't read as much towards the end, and yeah, so unfortunately I didn't finish all of my TBR for May. So yeah, so May I didn't do too great, but just as a refresher, these are the books I was supposed to read in the month of May. So the first book on my TBR for May was Wicked by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which she is my sister's favorite author, and this was the book I unwrapped. I did read this one, so did good. Next was Dreamland Burning by Jennifer Latham. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that last name right. I did read this one as well. And then there was The Mary Shelley Club by Goldie Moldavsky. I know that can't be right, but I also did read this, and this was actually going to be the biggest on my TBR for the month, and luckily I did read this one. Don't ask how I didn't succeed on the others, because I did read the biggest one. At least I did that, right? And I also read Throttled by Lauren Asher. And then I was supposed to read as well Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim, The Silent Dolls by Rita Herron, and I did not get this on my, oh, I'm missing one, aren't I? I was also supposed to read The Lake by Natasha Preston, and for some reason I don't have the book with me. But I added this, Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall, outside of my TBR Clue game. I really wanted to read this one because Meg with Books here on YouTube was supposed to read it during the month of May. I don't know if she did or not. I haven't actually seen if she has or not, but I did not get around to it anyways, so didn't make it anyways. Anyways, so I was supposed to read, I believe, yes, 8 books in the month of May, and I only read half of them. So I only read 4. I did get part of the way, as you can tell. I did get part of the way into The Silent Dolls by Rita Herron, and I basically hit a roadblock with this one. I just wasn't as in love with it as I hoped I would. I am going to retry this eventually. This was one that came, I believe, with the Lantern bonus. So the tag will be going back into the little clear container that I draw tags out of for that bonus. It will be going back in there, so it does have a chance on getting drawn again at a later game. So this may pop back up eventually here on the channel. But I did not quite make it, didn't quite finish it. I got close, but I didn't finish it, so. But yeah, and I got the audiobook to 6 Crimson Cranes, and I think I listened through the prologue or something, and I just wasn't in love with that as well. But it is going to be a choice in case I land on Adventure again and I get a prompt that will connect this one. So it is still a chance. It's still on my shelves. It's still on my TBR. It's still a possibility at a later date. So. But yeah, so I did read 4 out of the 8 books, and all 4 of those ones did get 5-star ratings. So out of the ones I did read, that's a pretty good rating. Like, yeah, that is overall 5 stars, so that's pretty great. So I really don't know what happened after that, honestly. I finished, Throttled was the last one I read this month, and after that, for some reason, I tried, as you could tell, I tried picking up a couple other books, and I didn't finish them. I didn't go through with them. I don't know what happened. I think I just got busy. It's been non-stop busy here lately, so yeah, that's all I can say about that. So I did read 4 books, which brought me up to 1,602 pages read for the month of May. All 4 were 5-star ratings, and yeah, that's all I can say about that. And yeah, so the rest of the video is going to be me in the moment talking about each of the books and how I felt and why I rated them 5 stars. And I hope you guys enjoy. There probably won't be a separate outro, but I hope you guys enjoy this video. There is no B-roll for this one as well. It's still kind of a long video. Because I had a lot to say about one of them specifically. But there is no outro, and I'm hoping next month's TBR, which I have already filmed and haven't even uploaded that yet, I hope that will go a lot smoother than May did. Wish me luck, and thank you guys for watching and all of the support, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye. Alright, so excuse my appearance. I am both emotionally and physically drained. It is Wednesday night, May 3rd. So I unfortunately had work for my first half of the day, and then around 1 o'clock I ended up going to visitation and funeral service for a family friend. She was practically like a great-grandma to me, so unfortunately I think I got a little sunburnt because it was pretty hot in the cemetery today. But yeah, so putting that aside, I kind of just wanted to focus on something else. So here I am. I just finished reading The Wicked, my first book of the month. Yeah, so this was a pretty good book to start off with for the month of May. It is the first of a trilogy. Now this is one, just a little reminder that this is the book that I ended up unwrapping, that my sister bought and sent to us, and that my mom wrapped. So I had no idea what I was going to be reading until I unwrapped it. I have no idea what the other books are that are currently wrapped, but this is the one that I unwrapped this month. And it was a really good pick. My sister did a great job picking this one out for me. I loved that it took place in New Orleans. Now this was a fantasy and romance kind of mixed into one, and it was pretty good. I'm not very happy with the ending. I did expect the plot twist, so I actually knew like halfway through. So let me tell you guys just a little bit about this book. I realized the last time I did a wrap-up, I didn't really talk much about like what the books are about. I just talked about my feelings towards them. So eventually I'll get better at these videos as I move along. This is only my second reading wrap-up video, so but this book as I said, takes place in New Orleans, and our main character, Ivy, is this red-headed 22-year-old who basically hunts these creatures called Fae, which, if you guys are familiar and read a lot of supernatural romances, Fae are kind of this creature that have been floating around for a while, especially on TikTok, like on certain books. For some reason, that's the go-to creature, I think, here lately. At least from what I've seen. They're pretty common. But there are these creatures that are called Fae, and in this series, Fae are otherworld creatures that basically eat off of humans and other mortals. They basically destroy other creatures. They have destroyed their realm, which is the other world. And now they are fighting to find a way into the mortal world. And it just so happens one of the gateways is in New Orleans, where our main character hunts Fae. And there is basically, there's rankings in the Fae. So one is just the regular Fae, which our main character is constantly hunting. New Orleans is just the big hub, basically, because it's such a tourist city and there's so many people for them to feed off of, that I guess they're basically drawn to that. But Fae are not supposed to be in the mortal world. They're not allowed to be there. So there's the Order, that is basically a secret society that hunts these creatures and sends them back to the other world, or kills them. Basically do anything to get rid of them, because they do harm humans, and they do slowly just take over the world. They kind of ruin it, and they break it, and yeah, so it's a big no-no. It's bad. And so there is a gateway in New Orleans, and then there's something called the Ancients, which are very, very powerful Fae that basically they're more powerful, and they are harder to kill. You can't kill them the way you kill regular Fae. So, and up until now, our main character didn't even know the Ancients existed. And then she happens, right at the beginning of the book, happens to have a run-in with an Ancient, and nobody believes her. Everybody thinks she's crazy. And so the book takes place of her basically uncovering more of, you know, what this creature is, and fighting it, and trying to find ways to destroy it. All the while, she's falling in love with a guy that has transferred there from Colorado, also a member of the Order, but he's a part of a secret society inside the secret society called the Elite. And they are basically tasked of killing the Ancients, and they are trained for that specific job. So, and they know, you know, they have more knowledge of it. So basically, there's, you know, rankings of how much knowledge each, you know, person has within the secret society. And basically the Elite is even a secret society to the secret society. Everyone in the Order doesn't know, most of them do not know the Elite even exist, or that Ancients existed. You know, it's all kept hush hush. So so he is a member of that, and he is there to basically, he had heard wind of an Ancient and more Fae becoming, basically there's more of them coming to New Orleans, and so he is there to take care of the Ancient and make sure they don't find the gateway to the mortal realm, so they can't break it, and to let the other world, all the other Faes in. And yeah, and then halfway through the book, now I'm not going to ruin the plot twist, but halfway through the book, we find out there's this other creature that is even more dangerous. It is a half-human, half-fae, which is not supposed to be possible, but apparently it is. It's rare, but it happens, and there's only like a dozen of them in existence, supposedly. And it's a big deal to make sure the halflings don't find this portal, or they don't basically procreate with another fae, because it breaks all of the gateways open and there would be no way of ever closing them again. So and halfway through, as soon as I found out what a halfling is, or that they introduced that creature to this world, I knew who it was right off the get-go. I mean, it's not too hard to figure it out, but apparently our main character was just a little, oblivious, a little blindsided. But this was a really good read, I'm not gonna lie. I am giving it a 5-star rating. It was pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. No, I did know. I even texted my sister because she is the one that picked this out. And halfway through, I was like, I only have like 100 and so pages left, and I think I know who the halfling is. I just found out what that is, but if I'm suspecting it's this person, and I was right. So I was pretty happy with my little prediction, but it also, makes me worry for what's going to happen next in the series, in the trilogy. So, yeah. So I will say I am thinking about adding the sequel to my reading list. I think I'm gonna get it and add it to my TBR. I don't know how soon I'll be able to get to the sequel, but I think I'm going to be adding it to my TBR because this was a pretty good read, and I am interested to see what happens next. I really loved the 2 main characters. I loved a couple of the side characters, and it was just a good time. I soared through this. It only took me a couple days to get through it, and I absolutely loved it. And I felt like it was such an easy read for me, and so, yeah. I feel like I'm like going on too long with this one book. My videos have been getting so long during these, but definitely worth the read. I would recommend, and I'm giving it a 5-star rating, and I do plan on adding this series to my TBR. So thank you, Sissy. It is Friday, May 5th, and I have finished Dreamland Burning, and I have to say I am giving this book a 5-star rating. This book actually turned out to be really good. It's not that hard to get into, and surprisingly, like, I usually don't like books when they're so serious, because this was based on very serious topics. They are very real topics that still exist today, and they need to be talked about, but usually if it's so serious, I don't enjoy reading the real stuff, I guess, the deep stuff. So I kind of struggled with Inner Turmoil for a little bit, but I also knew that I kind of hoped it was going to be a good read, and I was determined to get through it. And then when I actually started getting into it, especially today, I read 253 pages of it today, which is over half of it that I read today. And so I'm pretty proud of myself for that. And it was totally worth it. It was, once you get into it, it's a really good read, and it is worth it. So I just want to talk a little bit about this one. So like I said, it does cover very real, sensitive topics, but they are also, they're very deep, and they are very, they still exist, unfortunately. So this one took place on 2 different timelines. So we have present day, which I think in this book was like 2021, and then we have a past timeline set in 1921. So we have our main character in 1921 is William Tillman, and I believe he is 17 years old, and he is growing up, or has grown up, in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Which for me, I was surprised to find out. I didn't find this out until today, where I had already read like 3/4 of the book. I was almost done, and I had finally had some time, and I looked it up, and I realized this took place only like about 3 hours, a little more than 3 hours away from where I live. So when that dawned on me, I was like, oh, and I had never heard of this race riot, which shows how sheltered I guess I have been from that stuff, and shows how, you know, unknown this particular riot was. And calling it a riot is kind of not, it's the most common phrase of putting it, but it's also been known as a massacre or a Holocaust. So like I said, these are very dark, sensitive topics, but they're also very real. They have happened, and unfortunately our history is based off some events like that. And yeah, so getting past that, it was a really good book. Really cool to have the two timelines where it showed, you know, what happened in the past and what's going on in the future, and, you know, just seeing how the two timelines kind of mingled together to tell this one story. So William Tillman, like I said, has grown up in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 1921. Now his dad owns a, what's it called again? A Victrola? A Victrola, I think is what it's called. A Victrola, which I had to look up when I first started reading because it's mentioned very often throughout this book. So basically a Victrola, if you don't know, is basically an old style like turntable, like an old record player, but it has like one of those big wooden cabinets. I think most of them had. I don't know what's the difference between a Victrola and a record player. I don't know. I had to look it up though. I was like, what is a Victrola? So basically his dad owns a Victrola shop, and his son William ends up having to work in the shop and basically learn all about these machines. And it's basically on this very popular main street. I considered it to be like a town square. So all the well-known and kind of wealthier people had shops down this main street, and his dad had a shop there. So he is, you know, in a well-off family is basically what I'm getting at. And so he is in this well-off family, and he, you know, in the 1920s, unfortunately, African Americans or other races did not have the same, you know, equality. There was no equality. They did not have the same opportunities or the same lifestyles of Caucasian. I know it's a hard topic to talk about in general, and it shouldn't have to be. Unfortunately, in the 1920s, there was no equality. There wasn't great diversity at all, and it was very rough. So that's the time period that one is set in. And on May 31st, so this is why it was also a perfect time to read this book. So this took place on May 31st and carried over till in the evening of May 31st, and then carried till the afternoon of June 1st of 1921. There was this big race riot in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Now this really did happen. The characters in this book may be fictional in their stories as well, but the riot did actually happen. This historical event did happen, and what takes place in the book did happen. Some things that the characters went through did happen, like it was all real, and she just put some fictional characters in that environment and kind of told the story of what could have happened, or, you know, what it was like living through that time period or that event. So which I honestly really enjoyed with this book. So it really went well. And I'm reading this in the month of May, so it's kind of the perfect time to read this book, because I didn't realize how close, you know, that was to current times. And this is over 100 years ago, so it kind of turned out to be perfect timing, honestly, and I couldn't have planned that better. I did not think that through at all. I didn't plan on that, honestly, because I hardly knew what this book was even about to begin with. So shows how ignorant I was, but it was super good. And he is also kind of sheltered from, you know, and he was raised in that time period where you know, you treat these people differently that have colored skin. You treat them differently. But he soon realizes, you know, he didn't grow up like hating them or really purposely thinking bad of them, I don't think. But I think it opens his eyes to, oh, these people are just like me. They're just like us. There is really no difference between us. We are equals, kind of deal. And he makes good friends with a couple of kids from this this big community of African Americans and other races. I don't want to say they're just African Americans. I think there was also Native Americans. But basically all with any type of colored skin, was in this this big community called Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That was where they were all living. That was their section of Tulsa, their spot to stay, or, you know, live. And so he made friends with a couple of kids from that community. And he realizes, you know, he's warming up to the idea, oh, they are equal to me, they are just people as well, they are trying to live this life, and he realizes how badly they have been treated, and, you know, it kind of just really opens his eyes. And then, of course, around this time, there's also, I don't want to even say it, but, you know, the 3K. Unfortunately, is also rising up and becoming a bigger, you know, having a bigger membership. It's just rising up in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the time of this as well. So basically there's this big race riot, and he spends the entire evening of May 31st up till that afternoon of June 1st saving and surviving and basically protecting his two, you know, friends. And he also helped a couple others from that community, and, you know, it's them basically just surviving that riot. They're just trying to, you know, live another day. And the very end of, you know, of this riot, they have burned down Greenwood. They have set fire to Greenwood, and I believe 35 blocks in the real world, 35 blocks of Greenwood, all of Greenwood, it was 35 blocks, was destroyed and burnt down to the ground by that fire. So the entire community that, you know, these people would live in was burnt down. All of their homes, all of their belongings. It was looted first. White people took whatever they wanted, and then they also shot, lynched, and all of this unnecessary violence happened and cruelty, and then they burnt down all of their homes and businesses, and 35 blocks worth of this big community. So, you know, it's very sad to know that that's an actual blemish in our history, like that, or that actually existed. So, cue to our other timeline that's basically going on, is being told at the same time as this one. I think it's set in 2021 with Rowan Chase, our main character in this one, and she is a mixed American, and so she is, you know, seeing it through those eyes. Now, her family has been well off, so she has also been kind of blind to some of the stuff, but she has really opened her eyes with this. And in her timeline, the book begins with her finding the 100-year-old skeleton under the floorboards. Basically, a construction crew had come in to work on the building because her mom decided to fix it up, and they uncovered the 100-year-old skeleton of this guy that had been left there, that had originally tried to kill William's friends 100 years ago. And yeah, so she decides she wants to solve this cold case because this person has been forgotten. She wants to figure out what happened, and she has a summer to do it. And eventually they do solve it. It is a big secret. She discovered it through William's son, and his friend Ruby's daughter is still living, you know, up in their years, but they were still living, and they were the only two that knew the secret. Their parents took it to their deathbeds, and they were the only two remaining, but they were also both, you know, up in years. One particularly was fighting cancer, so But yeah, so she was able to basically find the truth. She discovered everything and figured out who the skeleton was. So that's basically the whole story, is her trying to figure out who this was. And also while she's dealing with current day problems of, you know, people looking down on, it's basically history repeating itself, basically. So it's a pretty good book, and I feel like I'm not explaining it to the best of my ability. I'm trying to. It's just, but it's so good, and I don't want to spoil too much more of it. I did feel like I soared through it. I mean, I literally read 253 pages of it today, and it was amazing. It was a really good read, which, you know, honestly kind of surprised me. I didn't know how this one was going to go. I didn't know if I was going to like it or not, because like I said, serious topics kind of aren't my jam, but this one was pretty good. It was worth the read, and I do highly recommend this one. So yeah, I'm giving it 5 stars, and I'm very happy that I read it, especially in the time that I read it, because wow. And I didn't know this history took place, you know, just a short distance away from me. So like, it was literally along the Arkansas River. So I thought that was pretty cool. But it was kind of strange to be reading, and then there was mentions of, you know, other places close by, and I was like, surely this can't be as close as I think it is. I guess I just didn't realize how close Tulsa, Oklahoma was to me. And so this entire time I'm reading it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna look this up later. But eventually I got around to looking it up, and I was like, oh, this is like 3 hours from me. So that was pretty wild to me. And yeah, so this is a good read. I highly recommend it. Hey everybody, it is... Why did that sound like my intro? It's been a long day. Okay, so it is 5:24 p.m. This is May 9th. So, wow, okay. I'm really tired. I have finished the 3rd book for this month on TBR Clue, The Mary Shelley Club. And this was a really good read as well. I also gave this one 5 stars. This month is just on a roll. So, now I was debating on whether to give it 4.5 or 5 stars. I landed on the 5 stars when I put it on Goodreads, so that's what I'm sticking with. The one reason I wanted to put it at 4.5 is I just didn't care for the ending. I knew who the bad guy was going to be, basically. Without spoiling anything, I basically had expected the one main person that was going to be the bad guy, and I kind of saw where this was heading pretty much from the beginning of the book, like after meeting the characters. After getting the full slate of characters, I picked up on it pretty quick, unfortunately. So I think that kind of ruined it a little bit for me. But it was a really enjoyable read, and I can easily say this because yesterday I read 256 pages. No, 274. Let me double check. 275 pages. So all of that was wrong. I read 275 pages of it yesterday, which was well over half, because this is the biggest book this month at 466 pages long. And then I read today 191 pages, which was what remained of this book. So it was pretty good, but I did not like the ending, but it did kind of have, it would be a good one to turn into either a movie or a show, honestly. Like, I could totally see that happening. I'm kind of wishing there was a sequel to this one, just because I really did enjoy a couple of these characters, and I was really hoping they would end up together by the end of it, even though it was kind of like a triangle in a way, where she was getting close to this other person, but I didn't have good feelings towards that one to begin with. Rightfully so, it turns out. And then, so I was really hoping she would end up with this one person, and they kind of touched it a little bit, but not really. It didn't go anywhere, and so I was very sad on that point. And I don't know if I'm just wanting more romance for some reason when it's supposed to be like a horror book, you know, but I guess I'm just, I guess next I need to read a romance book, which luckily I have one slated for this month, but I was kind of itching for a little bit more of a, you know, that cute little high school romance that they touched a little bit on, but I wanted it to be with a specific character, and the way it was going, they would have turned out really great together, I think. They had a lot to get over by the end, but but it was a pretty good one. And at the top, it says a little bit of Scream, a little bit of Gossip Girl at the top, and I can definitely attest to that. Like, it definitely reminded me of Scream pretty much a lot of it kind of reminded me of Scream, especially the TV series of Scream. I believe that was on like MTV or something, but I enjoyed that show, but this one definitely reminded me of that. It was down a similar vein, so I don't want to give too much away on this book, so I don't want to say much else, but it was worth the read. I highly recommend it, and I can't believe how fast I flew through this book. I thought it was going to take me a few days to get through it, because usually my goal for every day is to read at least 100 pages, and considering we're only, you know, into this month, like a couple weeks. Did any of that make sense? I'm sorry, I'm really tired. So we're only about a little over a week, I think, into this month, and yeah, we're on the second week of this month, and I've already read 3 books, so I wasn't really wanting to really rush with this one, and because it's the longest and the biggest one of the challenge, whew, it's gonna be rough. Since it's the biggest one for this month that I knew I had to read, I wasn't really going to rush into it, but I'm really proud of myself. I read it in 2 days, and I honestly had time to kill at the end of my shift today, because I had read what was left of it so quickly today, and it literally took me from lunchtime, which by the time I got back is maybe around 1-ish, by the time I actually got to reading today, and I read it by, I think, 3:40-ish, so it only took me a few hours to get through, you know, close to 200 pages, so I think either I'm getting faster at reading, or this was just so good that it was an easy read and I soared through it, which I'm leaning towards that. But it was super good. I didn't expect it to be that good, honestly, but it was pretty good, and it kept me wanting more by the end of it. So, and I don't really say that too often, but I really kind of wish there was a sequel, if not for these characters to go somewhere else, maybe. I don't know, but I really enjoyed it, and sadly it is a standalone, but I do recommend this book. Gave it 5 stars. Yeah, so moving on to the next one. It is Thursday, May 11th, and sorry, I'm like really tired. It's been a frustrating day. For some reason, it's just been one of those days, but I was able to finish Throttled today. It only took me a couple days to read this one as well, so I'm pretty happy with how I'm just soaring through this month's TBR. But yeah, I think I read 220 pages today of this and finished it, so yeah, it only took me a couple days. So now this is Throttled by Lauren Asher. Now I don't know if this was like her first, like her debut book, but I feel like it kind of had to be close to the beginning of her career. I'm kind of interested to read I have all of her other series that I've yet to touch. I forget the name. It's like Dream Billionaires or something, that series. So I have all of that one, and I think that's her newer series. So I'm interested to see like the change in her writing, like her growth from this one to that series. Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to continue with this series or not. I will say I am going to give this one 5 stars as well. I was hesitant to do so because I feel like I'm giving 5 stars out too easily. Because all of them so far this month have been 5 stars, but I did enjoy reading this, so I feel like it deserves the 5 stars. But like I said, you can tell the writing is kind of like a new writer trying to figure out like how, figure out how her writing style, I think. And it kind of felt like it could have been like a Wattpad book to begin with, and I don't know, it could have been. I don't actually know much else of this book other than, the actual reading of it, so I don't know much about the author at all, but this one was making its rounds on TikTok, I believe, for a while, and I just happened upon it in Barnes & Noble and bought it, and it was pretty good. But the way this series goes, I believe there are 4 books, and each book is different characters from this same series, I believe. So, like, it has already mentioned all the other characters that are going to take place in the rest of the series. So we that means this is a standalone book for these 2 characters, and then the next is a different couple, the next is a different couple. So it's, they're all romance. And this is pretty good for a romance book. I don't usually read much romance. I used to read like a lot of cute Wattpad love stories and such, but I never would read like romance books. It just wasn't really my thing. But now that, I've grown up, and, it's kind of, it's nice. I kind of just want to like broaden my horizons on what I read. I don't want to stick to just mystery and horror and thriller like I do. So I'm trying to like add some new genres, and that was the whole purpose of doing TBR Clue, is just so I can expand my library and, read other genres out of my comfort zone. And this is just one of them. And I honestly, because it was going around on TikTok, I expected this to be more steamy romance, just because that's kind of the kind that goes around on TikTok, but it was a little, about 3/4 of the way through, so like the last bit of it was a little steamy, but other than that, it wasn't too insane. Like I was expecting it to be more. And it was kind of a slow-paced romance as well, and so it did take me a minute to really get into it, but when I did, I was there. So I was invested in these characters. Like, I didn't really want to put it down yesterday. I kind of wanted to keep going. But yeah, so this was a pretty good read. I am going to go ahead and give it 5 stars. I feel like this month I'm giving 5 stars away, but whatever, right? At least I'm enjoying reading. That's like the big part of it. So, but yeah, so I did give this one 5 stars, and this means I am halfway through this month's TBR Clue. So that is very exciting for me, because this month I did add an extra book outside of TBR Clue to TBR, which means I have 8 books to read this month, and I am already through the first 4, and one of those was actually the biggest book of the month too, so I'm feeling very accomplished right now. Like, I'm very proud of myself. I'm just flying through them. This week was just a really easy week to read for me. Despite all the chaos that's been going on, for some reason it's just been, and it's also been really rainy weather the past couple days, so it's been like perfect atmosphere to read. So I'm just glad I've had the time to. And